So, guys, welcome
Oh, hang
to
on.
episode 2 of the Rambling Rovers podcast. I'm proud to announce you'll have seen the thumbnail and the title. John Ryan, the man himself, on the show. It's an absolute honour to have you on, John. I hope you're well.
I'm very well, thank you.
All things considering.
Yeah,
um,
all things considering
yeah,
that my
uh,
football team is down the pack of me.
yeah. It's not great watching, is it? I think we will definitely come on to that later on in this episode. But yeah, first things first. I just kind of want to get a feel for who John Ryan was before becoming the John Ryan that Doncaster Rovers fans know. So the first question to you is, what kind of hooked you to Doncaster Rovers from a younger age? Was it kind of going to Bellevue and standing on the terraces with friends, or was it family? What kind of hooked you into the club?
My dad, he took me. He had a motorbike and sidecar in the 1950s, and he took me as a little boy. I think I first went about 57, 58. And I was hooked, and I've been a Rovers fan ever since. I remember seeing Harry Gregg before he was transferred to Manchester United, which broke my heart.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how it all started. My dad was a Rovers fan. My grandfather was a Rovers fan. My brother's a Rovers fan. We're all, my mother's a Rovers fan. The whole family were always Rovers, and we weren't swayed by Leeds, Manchester United, or anything else. We wanted to support our home team, and I wish a lot more Doncastrians would do that.
Completely agree. We've got such a big catchment area in Doncaster.
I
It'd
know,
be
I
nice to
know,
see people
I know.
buy into the club, but
I couldn't even fill the keep moat when we were in the championship doing well.
yeah,
So that was the only time it was really full was when we played Leeds, and I presume half the people at Doncaster were supporting Leeds. The only thing that made me feel good was that we did actually beat Leeds a few times, particularly at Wembley, which I really enjoyed.
yeah, definitely. We jump forward to the 97, 98 season, and that was horrible to watch. That was kind of early memories
Yeah,
for me as a Rovers fan. I think it'll still
yeah.
it'll still rest deep in yourself. And talk us through kind of the experience of that season and kind of what then led you
Well,
on.
I'll just go back because a lot of people don't know this, but I actually joined the board in '89, and I was instrumental in bringing Billy Bremner back as manager. And I was only a director then. I had a reasonable shareholding, put quite a bit of money in. But it was always a very sort of difficult time. We're always struggling to pay tax bills. And then Richardson came along, and I tried to get control of the club with Mike Collar, to a really good man. Unfortunately, one or two other people thought Richardson was the panacea for Doncaster Rovers. And, we all know how that turned out. But anyway, I resigned at that stage, which was about 94. I knew I couldn't work with Richardson, and I handed my shares back in. Uh, I was approached by a chap called Ray Thomas, good friend of mine, massive Rovers supporter. And he said, God, 97, 98 was a terrible time. What can you do? And I went to the last game at Colchester. I think we've lost. Have we lost you, Daniel?
No, no, you're
I think
still
we've
you're still
lost
there. Yeah,
you, Daniel.
you're good.
It's gone.
No, you're.
I think I lost you for a bit there.
Yeah, I heard you
Oh,
loud and clear. So hopefully it's
oh, did
still
you?
good.
I just lost you. You were frozen in time.
Oh.
I think it was talking about Ken Richardson. But 97, 98, I went to the last game, Colchester, which I thought would be the last game I would ever watch Doncaster Rovers, which was a terrible experience. And I walked behind the coffin. The ground was dilapidated.
Yeah,
The team was a joke. And Ray Thomas said, "Is there anything you can do?" And anyway, in the end, I managed to get together with Peter Wetzel, and initially Westbury bought the club and did a good job in getting rid of Richardson, although they paid him £4 million for the lease, which was very annoying.
Yeah.
And he got 4 years to go with it. So I was thinking that was poetic justice. And anyway, me and Peter took it over, and it took us 5 years to get out of the conference, which is a very tough league. I mean, if we go back down there again, it might take us 10 years to get out.
Yeah, it's got even tougher in that league, hasn't it?
Oh, well, look at the teams down there,
Yeah.
I mean, Notts County didn't win. I got over 100 points, and still Wrexham looked like winning the league. I mean, God, it's a tough league to get out of that. Very tough.
Hopefully that never happens, and things are put in place to prevent us from dropping further down the table.
Yeah. Well, we should never have gone down from League One last year. I contacted Terry, who was a good man, put a lot of money into the club, but he'll never take my advice, so that's the problem. He listens to that chairman. I haven't got a clue. Yeah. And I said, get Neil Warnock and he'll come back and keep us up. And if he'd have done that, we'd have stayed in League One. I mean, look what he did at Huddersfield just recently.
Yeah,
he'd have come to Doncaster, Neil. He's a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
But maybe they didn't want to pay him a reasonable wage. I don't know. But
yeah, it's a tough one. I think you see a lot on social media.
All this cheapskate, I mean, I feel sorry for Danny Schofield, because he's not really equipped to do the job. League Two is a tough league. You're coming up against people like that guy at Stevenage,
Yeah, Steve Evans, yeah.
Yeah, they're tough operators,
Yeah, they've already cut the teeth and they know
yeah,
what don't they?
We needed an expert. Look, I think Danny Schofield might one day be a good man, a good coach, but he needed a quality person who had the experience of League Two. We needed a big man up front. We've got to stop fannying around, playing out from the back. I mean, look at Arsenal. They messed up. Man City's messed up. Man United's messed up. And they've got quality players. So are we surprised that we mess up? We've got our goalie is a good goalie, but his distribution is not great.
Yeah, I think from like a shot stopping point of view, Mitchell's
he's a good goalie, and but the thing is, you've got to play to your strengths in League Two. You can't play Championship football in League Two. You need a Leo Fortune West up front, big guy. No use putting Agard up there on his own. Yeah, he can't even. He's got no chance against these big centre halves.
Yeah, they become a little bit too isolated, don't they?
Yeah, it's just, there's so many obvious mistakes being made. And the only good news is Gary McSheffrey got us a few lucky points early in the season to keep us out of the relegation, because we would have gone down otherwise.
Yeah, it could have been a really tough end to the season, couldn't it, without the
Well, I just wonder where the next point is coming from. I hope it comes today against Newport, but it don't look great. It don't look great. It needs a complete restructure from the start. And the thing is, it's the chairman that sets the agenda. Well, hang on, talk about missing in action. Did you ever hear from him? At the end of the day, when I was chairman, I was there pushing forward, telling the players, come on, we can do it, come on, we can go there. Come on. And I got criticised for it, but a bit of enthusiasm from the top is what everyone they always look to the chairman to set the agenda. And if the agenda is, well, we don't give a stuff, then okay, well, there you go. That's what you get. Relegation.
Yeah, so that kind of brings me onto one of the questions that I've jotted down. So from like a day-to-day perspective, when you were the chairman at Doncaster, what did that day look like for you in terms of kind of rolling up to a match day and things? Because I remember you coming out and saying about going into the changing rooms and saying that you had the dream about Leeds United and things. So kind of give us an overview of what you did as a chairman and what your expectations.
But I bled red and white. I was always a massive Rovers fan, and believe me, I lived through some terrible years. When we got re-election most blooming years. It was not a great period. And I always hark back to the 50s. God, if only we could recover that 50s period, which of course we did eventually. But the only way to do it is to get people on your side. First of all, you've got to get the fans on your side. So I used to go round, I remember, I used to go round the ground shaking everyone's hand and say, come on, get behind our team, please. You know, when I do agree with the current chair, bring your friends, come on, let's get the stadium full. We worked incredibly hard, me and many others, to get a fabulous stadium in the it's called Eco now, isn't it? But the Eco Stadium, which is a championship standard stadium. But you know, you've got to have all the things. I used to go in the changing room before the game. I used to, you know, speak to every player. And after the game, win, lose or draw, I'd go and say, well, you've done your best, blah, blah, blah. Or, come on, we could have done better there. We could have done this, we could have done that. And I worked very well with Sean O'Driscoll. But what I used to do as chairman, I knew, because of the years of watching Doncaster Rovers all those years, I knew where the good players were, like Richie Wellens. I remember saying to Sean, I've never heard of Richie Wellens. I said, no, Sean, because you and Bournemouth down at Bournemouth. This lad is at Blackpool. He's a bloody good player. Oh, Oldham, I can't remember. Blackpool.
Oldham, I think it was, yeah.
Oldham, yeah. I said, let's get him in. Speak to him. And he spoke to him, and he came in. Great. And then, you know, the other thing, you know, later on, Matt Mills, I used to sponsor when I owned Transform, Manchester City and Man United. So when I wanted Man United to open the stadium, sure, John, no problem. We'll do it for free. And when I wanted Matt Mills from Man City, I went over, saw Sven-Göran Eriksson. He said, oh, I believe you're a shareholder in Man City. I said, yes, I am. I said, I sponsor. He said, well, yes, Mr. Mills, you're interested. Yes, I'm interested. I said, look, let's cut to the chase. I can afford 300 grand. Will you let me have it for 300 grand? He said, well, I wanted more. Go on, all right, well, apparently the chairman said, you know, to look after you as you've looked after us all these years. I used to take all my beautiful girls down to the luncheons that run by Mike Summerby. And if I came with my girls, they'd have a massive sellout. If I didn't come, hardly anyone would turn up. So they owed me a big favour, and they gave me a big favour, 300 grand. And we sold Matt Mills for 2.5 million, having had 2 or 3 good years out of him. Billy Sharp, you know, I got him over to, I rang Sean, I always remember this conversation. I rang Sean and I said, I've got Billy Sharp over at my house with his dad. He said, oh, come over. No, don't waste my time. He's signing for Burnley. Burnley have offered him 14 grand a week. We can only go to 10. Yeah. Anyway, I had Billy and his dad in my house here in Cheshire, and eventually I demanded Sean O'Driscoll come over, and he did. And by the time he got over, Billy had agreed to sign. And what a great signing he was. I mean, we bought him for, and this is where, God rest him, you know, Dick Watson, what a great guy he was, and what a great supporter of the club, and what a great loss to the club he was. Dick Watson and Terry and myself all put 400 grand in. That was the power of 3 people putting money in. And we bought him for 1.15 million. Could have sold him for 3.25 million to Southampton. In the end, he went for about a couple of million, but because of contractual things, because he didn't want to go. But you know, this is how you deal in football. This is how you get the club moving upwards.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing a lack of that at the minute in terms of, I mean, the ones
well,
that you mentioned there.
There's nothing there.
Yeah, we've been able to bring players in for relatively cheap. I mean, it's still a big chunk of money what you're talking about, but then that sell on of much more that can then be reinvested. I think we've lost that kind of vision over the last 3, 4, 5 seasons maybe.
Well, the last one was Whiteman. They did a good deal with Whiteman, didn't they? And but who have we got now that's a sellable property?
Yeah, there's not really any that are showing. Maybe Kyle Hurst potentially, but
maybe Kyle Hurst, maybe Miller, you know, but
yeah, it's not kind of at the level of what Whiteman was.
You know, and when I hear that they've sold young players off to Man United or Leeds, I mean, for God's sake, you're selling the family silver. Yeah. You know, there's only one way you're going if you're doing that. That's down.
Yeah,
and When I left the club in 2013, because I wanted to get in the Premier League and I had it all organised, and there was one man that stopped me, and it wasn't Terry, and he's still at the club. I won't mention his name, but there's no doubt it was him. And that forced me to resign. But the club then, we'd been 4 or 5 years in the Championship, gone down, and I was criticised for the experiment, but hey, you watched Hal Hoft Youth play at Doncaster Rovers.
Yeah.
So it wasn't all bad, but we were going to go down anyway. We had a terrible start to that season. I think we got 1 point from 7 games, so we had to do something. And yet, this is the moment about the experiment. We bought Dean Saunders in, and Dean Saunders got a team that was right for League One, and we won League One, as you well know. The great game at Brentford. Cox scored a great goal at the end there. Fabulous day. And when I left, about November of that year, having just spent a good chunk of money on the winger from Brentford, I can't remember his name now, Forrester.
Yes.
They wouldn't go with me, so I left. I decided no. I'd done 15 years. I'd worked my socks off, because it's not just about putting money in. I put a lot of money in, probably approaching 10 million. Dick Watson put even more in. Yeah. He probably 12 in. Terry probably even more than that. But but I wasn't as wealthy as them. If I'd have been as wealthy as Terry Bramall, Doncaster Rovers, I assure you, would have played in the Premier League without doubt. I'd have been a lot poorer, admittedly, but I'd have been rich in terms of memories. You can't beat my memory. Occasionally, I watch the Leeds game, at Wembley. You can't beat those memories.
It was unreal football that day as well.
All my mates that stood on the terraces with me and all the rain-sodden days at Hartlepool and Rochdale, they enjoyed that moment. What a moment. What a moment. But when I left in November 2013, it was a very sad day for me. But I think it was a sad day for Doncaster Rovers as well, because we were mid-table, just below mid-table in the Championship. Within a few years later, we're thinking next season we could be back in the non-league if nothing happens.
Yeah, I hope the board are thinking in the same way as what you've just said there about the definite potential of dropping down into the National League next season, and it's down to them to put something in place to prevent that from happening, isn't it? And
well, I think Terry's done the right thing. I did actually send a message to Terry. I said, there's 3 things you've got to do to protect your legacy, and to an extent mine. I said, look, do you really want to be known as a total failure when you've had such a success in your life? Yeah. Because you'll be remembered for the total failure you were at Doncaster Rovers. And in all fairness, he's decided to put some money in, which I think is great. Good on you. But what I'm worried about, that money has got to be used very well. I mean, Gavin Baldwin does a great job. He does a great job in terms of, bringing the revenue in, because we've got a nice stadium, we're using it, car boots out. Great. He's a good CEO. I'm surprised he's still at Doncaster, but he's done well. But Terry's relying on the chairman, who I don't know what he does, quite frankly. And, having done that job for 15 years, I know it's a full-time, tough job. I used to go to every game, home and away. By God, if a referee made a mistake, they knew about it, because I knew the head of the referees and I was straight on to them. Yeah. There was no way they were going to get away with it. But there seems to be a malaise now. No one really cares. I mean, I cared. When we lost, I went into a depression. I still do. Yeah. I still do now. When we lose, I only watch them on iPod these days, but I go through them. Oh God, they've lost again, have they? Yeah, lost again. Bloody, they've not even had a shot on target. I'm pig's sake.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough viewing for us.
Yeah. And it's the worst viewing since that horrible season of Ken Richardson.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, hopefully it does go in peaks and troughs as football does, it's quite
Yeah,
psychical, isn't
hopefully,
it?
yeah,
So
hopefully. Hope springs eternal in football, and let's hope next season we can get things. If, well, I know Terry will put his money in.
yeah,
I just hope it's used wisely,
yeah, that's the
because
big thing, isn't it?
it's very easy to waste money in football.
Yeah.
And if he's listening to the wrong people, then we
Hopefully,
could.
with Coppinger in there as kind of the director.
Well, Cops, yeah, that gives me some hope that Cops is there, because he bleeds red and white as well.
Yeah,
And he's a good man. Danny Schofield's got to learn from his mistakes, and if he don't learn, he won't last very long.
yeah, it's difficult as a fan, kind of backing Danny at the minute. I get some hammer on social media because I think he needs giving a little bit of time, a transfer window where he's brought his own players in, but he's not doing himself any favors at the minute with sticking to
No.
a system, and it's difficult to.
Well, I mean, I know it's not maybe his star, but he stands there, his hands in his pockets. When I was a chairman, I went, come on,
Yeah,
get that ball moving. I kicked every damn ball.
that's what you want to see, isn't it?
I find it hard to find this. It almost seems like a lack of enthusiasm, but I know that's not the case. And I'm sure, I've never met him. I'm sure he's a nice guy and he's doing his best. And he certainly doesn't deserve the abuse he's been getting. And I put something on social media about that. But because, it's very hard. It must hurt him. He's a Doncaster boy. It must hurt him just as much as it hurts me and you.
I'd like to think so. I think it does. Sometimes it does come across that he's genuine in what he says, but it's just been far too similar. The same mistakes happening every single week, which is pushing people away. So hopefully we can see that turning form and turning fortunes next season. Looking back though at something a little bit more positive, are you still the record holder for being the oldest player? I wanted to ask you about this because I wanted to.
Oh yes, absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of get inside your head and know what was going through your head.
Well, because as a kid, I always wanted to play for Doncaster Rovers, no one else. And I was a pretty useful footballer at school level. I played in the Dagenham Grammar School first team, leading goal scorer. Scored 6 against, who was it? One of those grammar schools north of Doncaster. We won 9-3. And and one or two of the, Mick Elwis was in the year below me. He played for Rovers. Rob Belfield was just ahead of me, who played for Leeds. We had one or two that made it in the profession. I just wasn't quite good enough. That was the reality of it. But having become chairman, I thought it was a meaningless game. I thought I'm going to enjoy myself. And it was a bit of PR. Doncaster Rovers, everyone used to laugh at us because of the Richardson era. It took me years to get over that.
Yeah.
And then eventually people used to respect Doncaster Rovers. In fact, I felt good the other day because they said, when we were playing some team in the League Two games, well, Doncaster Rovers, of course, it wasn't very long ago, they were a championship team. And I thought, good, I'm glad somebody remembered. No, it's as I say, it's very sad to see where we've got to.
Yeah. But yeah, on that game against Hereford, you came on 52 years old, 11 months. Can you remember the player that you replaced, and was there any words said?
It was Barnsley was the captain. He gave me the captain's armband, and I ran out, and the centre half came up to me and he said, "If you touch that effing ball, I'm going to break your effing leg." And he said, "Dan," I said to him, "Have you seen my legs? They're twice the size of yours. Your little spindly things. You'll end my bloody career." And the funny thing was, as I was leaving, my wife was driving. We're in a big Bentley at the time. The chairman's car, of course. And then driving away, and the centre half came, "Have a good trip home." I mean, Hereford chuffed with me because we put about 1,500 people on the gate.
Well, that's one of those memories that you've got now from being chairman. Is there anything that you look back at in hindsight that you think you'd have done differently? Is there anything that you look back fondly on? Obviously, there's the 2005 Cup run.
there's always things you think you could have done differently, but I would say I got 90% of things right. I've been criticised for the experiment, but I actually didn't think I got that wrong particularly, because people remember it's the experiment led to Dean Saunders becoming manager, who I sold to Wolves for a lot of money, and the very next season we won the league. We had that wonderful experience at Brentford.
Yeah.
And that wonderful
touching on the experiment, do you think we probably brought too many players in?
Probably.
And probably just disrupted.
Look, the reality is we were going to go down anyway. Yeah. We'd run out of steam, basically. We'd run out of steam.
So was that just the case of a last throw of the dice and see?
Yeah, it was really. I thought, well, we're going to go down anyway. Let me just have a go. And I got Al Duke came to see me here in Cheshire, and I persuaded him to join us. And I thought, well, at least we saw Al Duke play for Rovers.
Yeah, there were a few other players in that season as well.
I tell you what would we give for an Al Duke now?
Front? Exactly. but no, one of the kind of fonder memories of Bellevue for me growing up was the 2005 Cup run. Obviously beating Villa, beating Man City, and then taking Arsenal all the way, which I think was an absolute travesty when you look back at it.
We battered them.
Yeah,
my mate was an Arsenal fan, and he was embarrassed because we beat them. We beat them, really. I blame Clattenburg, the referee. He added too much time at the end. Yeah. It should have been no time added, because there was no subs in the extra 15 minutes, no injuries, nothing.
Yeah.
And he said it wasn't him, it was the man at the side, put 2 minutes up. He said he was going to blow his whistle.
Yeah,
that makes me feel great. But anyway, that's how it goes. I think probably the greatest performance, you've always got to put Leeds up there at Wembley, but the greatest performance I thought was against Aston Villa, where we won 3-0. They didn't have a shot on our goal, and we absolutely outplayed them. And Doug Ellis, who was a friend of mine, he's dead now, but he was chairman at that time, he said, John, you haven't got a chance. We've got the full first team out. We're going to take this competition seriously. I said, well, we'll see. And we did see. 3-0. He went home before the end. He didn't want to face me. But he said to me later, he was absolutely amazed at the quality of our team. He said it was like playing a Premier League team.
Yeah, it was good memories. I think for me, one of the standout performances as well was Southend at home in the semi-final, which then took us to beating Leeds at the final as well. So I think that was world class, not Premier class. James Coppinger, it's the best hat-trick I've ever seen in all my life. Yeah.
Fabulous first goal. The second goal was out of this world. I mean, he went around the whole blooming defence and whacked it in with his left foot. And then that wonderful free kick where Greeny just passed it to him and stopped the ball. I mean, that was the best hat-trick. But, the atmosphere that night was just electric.
Yeah, that's what it could be.
The key motors it was then. Could have been, could have been.
Yeah.
Oh, what a night. And when he scored his second goal, which I think was our third, I think that's probably the best goal. One of the best. The best one ever. Was if anyone went to Notts Forest when we were bottom of the championship, we won 4-2, and we ended up something like 12th because we went on a great run.
Yeah. But
the goal from Martin Woods, that's the best goal Rovers ever scored. He chipped it in after about a 20-pass movement, typical Sean O'Driscoll style, and then from the edge of the box he chipped the Forest goalkeeper. We won 4-2, and we're on our way then. We're on our way.
Yeah, I think another goal that lives long in my memory is Billy Sharp's when El Hadjouf has just laid it through to him just after sadly his son had passed away. I think the emotion from that still kind of sticks with me. Yeah.
Oh, what a goal that was, and what a fitting tribute to his poor son Louis.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is all thanks to yourself and the team that you had around you, because without you, Doncaster Rovers would have gone out of existence. This channel wouldn't even exist as well. So I think,
well, they probably would have done at that stage, because I always remember I had to give 100 grand to the conference to let us start the season. Things were so bad.
Yeah.
But in the end, you know, we saw wonderful players like James Coppinger, Heffernan, Sharp,
Hayter.
Mill, Hayter, oh yeah, Richie Wellens, Stock. Whoa, what a midfield, Martin! What a midfield that was. I mean, if this team played the current team, God, he'd be 10-0.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think what we can say, John, is that you absolutely spoiled us in your time as chairman.
Well, look at Sullivan in goal.
Yeah.
Wow, what a goalie he was.
Yeah.
I mean, and the sad thing is, we gradually got the people of Doncaster. I used to go around, see Doncaster shirts. Well, here we are, look, the stripes.
Yeah.
We all used to wear them. The Leeds United shirt went in the bin, the Man United shirt went. Doncaster, proud to be Doncaster Rovers. And now what's happened? It's all gone back again.
Yeah.
It's all gone back again. Everyone's embarrassed now to be a Doncaster Rovers supporter. We got it up. We got the average gate up to just short 13,000 first year in the Championship.
Yeah.
And now
around 5 or 6, aren't we? So
yeah, but I think next season could be 3 or 4 again. We're back with it, back with dead men, unless things change.
Yeah, exactly.
When you lose a supporter, you know, you lose his family, you lose his sons. I have to see comments on Facebook. Oh, my son's bored to death. He don't want to go to the Rovers anymore. Well, I can understand that because one shot on target is no good. Just no good.
No, it's not. It doesn't get you on the edge of your seat. It doesn't make you want to go back, does it?
No.
The sad news is I've just had a notification saying that we are running out of time on this one, so we'll round this podcast up, John. A massive thank you once again for joining us, and it's been an honour to listen to some anecdotes from your time as chairman. One quick one before we do round off. Obviously, you did try to come back in 2014. Was that always a non-starter or not? I've seen it on social media.
It wasn't a non-starter. I was criticised, but I was approached by Irish people I knew who said they put 20 million in the end. They reneged on it really, and that's all that happened. And I was criticised for it, but you know what? If I'd have got my 20 million, I'd have got them in the Premier League for sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, I didn't, and you know. The rest is history. Look, I want to finish on this. I'd just like to mention Kevin Huncharenko, because he goes to every bloody game and he's been going in for the last 40, 50 years. And I'm just mentioning him. It's people like him I did it for. And my brother Philip, who's been in hospital recently. And, you know, at the end of the day, all these people had this great ride of, you know, I was chairman 15 years and it was a great ride. And I loved it. And I'll tell you what, I'm very proud of it. And these people, the odd couple of people on the Vikings have a go at me, calling me an hippie businessman and this, that, and the other, are just pathetic. I just don't want to get that one in as well.
No, it's your video, mate, to say whatever you feel.
Absolutely. How can you criticise somebody that's achieved what I've achieved?
Exactly. It is backwards way of thinking.
I brought 4 businesses from nothing. I've still got 2 now, which I'll be selling shortly. But the reality is my greatest achievement was raising Doncaster Rovers from the dead.
And if anybody wants to see it in its entirety, I implore you to go and watch Ashes to Glory. It's a fantastic video, which I do watch every now and then just to try and cheer myself up.
Well, to be honest, I do. It just makes me feel good about Doncaster Rovers.
Hopefully that time or times like that do return to Doncaster Rovers.
I
see you at the Eco Power once again, John.
But we need some changes. We need some changes.
Yeah.
You know, you can't have this malaise going on for much longer. Otherwise, we'll end up in the National League.
Yeah. I think on that note, one more thing, John. What would you say to fans who are sort of pulling away before we do round this off? Would you try and say stick with the team and hopefully it changes, or are you on the side of the fence where people make their own decisions?
No, please stick with them. Doncaster Rovers deserves to be supported, even in bad times. You've had a lot of good times in my era. okay, we've got bad times now, but the good times will come back again. They always do. These things go in cycles.
Lovely stuff. Once again, John, thanks for giving up some of your time this morning. I really do appreciate it.
Let's hope we get 3 points this afternoon.
Fingers crossed. And this is the end of episode 2 of Rambling Rovers. Once again, thanks to John for joining me. If you've enjoyed it, stick a big thumbs up on it for us, please. Comments in the section down below. If they've got any questions for John, I will try and get him on again in the future, and we'll put some of the fans' questions towards him if you want to do that, John. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. All that's left for me to say thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next one.